Thank you, Richard. That was lovely. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Renewal Group, the Earth Spirit Network, the National Unitarian Fellowship, and the Unitarian Peace Fellowship, where we have met for a weekend looking at endings and beginnings, and in its own way, so does this service. I do hope you all enjoyed the extra hour in bed. It gave me an hour just to read and wait for Sue to wake up so I could have a cup of tea personally. We do that because of the needs of farmers in World War I. I'm not sure it's still appropriate, but it seems relevant to mention it today. And it's nice to have that extra hour, unless you're a night shift worker, and then it's ruddy awful. I've done it. But welcome to this service this morning that marks the end of this quite remarkable weekend. Most of us here have been enjoying a weekend of laughing and talking and sharing and leading and listening. And we are here now to share worship together. So welcome. Sue, would you come and light the chalice? On Friday evening, we all engaged in a beautiful ritual. And today we follow that with our regular, and for most of us familiar, ritual of lighting the chalice flame. What is this ritual that we do, to light a candle in a cup? It is a stylized ritual of a distant memory of a priest, Jan Hus, from Czechoslovakia, a religious reformer who anticipated the Reformation. He questioned the infallibility of the Catholic Church and was excommunicated in 1409 and burned at the stake in 1415. He dared to believe that no one was too lowly or too separated from God to share the Eucharist, and he shared the communion cup with all of his congregation and did not, as was the custom, take communion on their behalf. And 500 years later, the American Unitarian General Service Committee borrowed this symbol to use as a sign of safety for those escaping persecution in Nazi Europe. And later, in the 20th century, it became the symbol of our British Unitarian faith, the shared cup in which a flame was placed to represent freedom, the freedom of the faith that we cherish. And so we light this flame today in celebration of our freedom to believe, in celebration of our freedom to share and to know, as Francis David, founder of the Unitarian Church in Transylvania in the 16th century, said, "We do not have to think alike to love alike." We're going to sing for our first hymn from the Purple Hymn Book, number 61. Here, in this moment's song, great symphonies are sung. All people we contain, ageless, although old or young, in passing words and melody, we celebrate eternity. Hymn number 61. Let's stand if you're able.
Symphonies of song.
Let us join in the fellowship of prayer and in reflection. Two prayers, the first written by Martin Palmer, the International Consultancy on Religion, Education and Culture, and the second, Brother David Steinzel-Rast from the Mount Saviour Monastery in New York. Be still and know that I am with you, says the Lord. Be still and know that I am you, says the Tao. We are part of nature, and nature is part of us. We are held by the hand of God, and we are the hands of God. Do not try to live as if we are separate. We are not. We are of God, part of the Tao. We are part of the landscape. We are the elements of the seasons. We are of both heaven and of earth. Let us be known for what we are and make our actions harbingers of a better future. Let us flow like water round obstacles and not batter our heads against a brick wall, but flow under it. And when it collapses, we will be long gone. Hold true to God, rest in the Tao, and we will be carried to where the future needs us. You, the one from whom on different paths all of us have come, to whom on different paths all of us are going. Make strong in our hearts what unites us. Build bridges across all that divides us. United, make us rejoice in our diversity. At one in our witness to your peace, a rainbow of your glory. Amen. And now John is going to read a parable for our time.
There is a story told by the farmer poet Wendell Berry of an old bucket that had been hanging on a fence post near his farm for something like 50 years. He remembers hearing a story about this old bucket when he was a boy. And the story told how the black hired hands on his grandfather's farm had looked for something one day to cook their lunch in. Boiled eggs. And they found and used a bucket that once held tar. One of the eggs turned black in the cooking, and the men joked heartily about who would eat the black egg. Or so the story was told. When Barry took notice of the old bucket on that fence post when he was an adult, it still showed the black, dry scales of the tar that once was inside. But the bucket also held an accumulation of half a century of leaves, of insects, of bird and mouse droppings, which, though Barry calls this the chief work of the world, had produced several inches of black humus in the bottom. The essential process of soil making. This has been at work for countless centuries, millennia, over most of the land surface of our world. Without it, we would not be. We would perish. Barry draws a lesson from this simple parable. Like the bucket, A human community, too, must collect leaves and stories and turn them to account. It must build soil and build the memory of itself in lore, story, and song. That will be its culture. A human community, if it is to last so long, must exert sort of a centrifugal force, holding both local soil and memory in place. Practically, human society has no more important work than this.
Thank you, John. It seems to me if we have been discussing nothing else this weekend, we have been discussing the leaves and the insects and the moss that has grown in our bucket and what it will grow next. Let's sing our next hymn. It's 183 in the Purple Hymn Book. We are daughters of the stars. We are sons of the earth. We are spinners and weavers in this web of life. And the joy that we weave reaches out beyond the stars and deep within the center of our being. Let's sing together hymn 183. Bringing together four groups of people who have been drawn to look at their faith and support for this Unitarian movement in various ways has been interesting, entertaining, and often enlightening. Each group representing and presenting a workshop, a discussion, a presentation in order to engage everyone. And in this way, I think we have learned new ways of being, ways of understanding the makeup of our movement today, recognizing that we begin again and again and again, sometimes by design, sometimes organically, and mostly by accident. We experienced ways this weekend of approaching and understanding the divine that might have been unfamiliar. We've looked at new ways of seeing the world, new ways of being connected and staying connected. We have been reminded again and again that in the words of Francis David, we don't have to think alike to love alike. Even if there are times when we find other than our familiar ways challenging. And that lesson is often one we need to learn and relearn. Not that there's been much, or at least no serious dissension this weekend, but I'm sure we have all found our personal understanding of Unitarianism, life and faith a little in the spotlight sometimes when asked to consider things in a way we had not considered them before. And that's both good and healthy for all of us. Without challenges to our theology, our understanding of what faith means, what being a Unitarian means, we just stagnate. We don't grow. Our theme for this weekend, of course, was beginnings and endings. And we have looked in all kinds of interesting ways at both of these. Our time has been rich and full and beautiful. There is a kind of symmetry that we meet here in autumn, on the cusp of winter, when nature appears to shut down, so close to closing up, to sleeping. And yet, in reality, this is the time when the earth beneath our feet begins her biggest job of work. The beginning of the journey to spring, nurturing the seeds of the tomorrow in the darkness of today. We too, though we wear individual badges, Peace Fellowship, Renewal Group, Earth Spirit, and these folk who run all these wonderful cameras and the like, and help us to think outside of our congregations. We have spent time conferring on endings and considering, even celebrating beginnings, to nurture new life in our movement and ourselves, new life for our individual gatherings and the movement itself. We have come to bring vitality to the lifeblood of our faith, our understanding of what it is to be a Unitarian. In our sharing, there is a new beginning. In our gathering together to speak and listen, there is a beginning. In our individual presentations and in our informal conversations, we grow. We take away thoughts and ideas, learning from each other. We begin something new. And in the silences we have shared, we have seen and felt new stirrings of belonging. We may seek our faith individually, but we come together for nourishment, to find new beginnings for our own journey and the journey we make together. I was fascinated during the URG timeline and the efforts we made to predict the future. We can't, of course. I dare say it will be not the best planting and seeding of our generation that flowers in the next, but the accidental, the beautiful growth in the rich hummus we've hardly noticed hanging on a fence somewhere. It may be the current young people who don't do church on Sundays, who find a way to reinvent the Unitarian ethos when they need it, finding the things we and our forebears left for us as a useful vantage point, yet for an unimagined new beginning. One sermon from one congregation through the medium of this World Wide Web that I really don't understand terribly well has gained 1,000 viewers. How many have got congregations of 1,000 people? Yet online, we've had one. Maybe that's a new beginning. I don't know. I suspect it will be technology that feels so foreign to some of us that will keep this faith alive. And already it's making a difference. We don't need to go to church to listen to an address or to hear hymns. They're there in abundance on Unitarian TV and YouTube. What seems missing to me, and I suspect I'm not alone here, is that simply watching it on screen, we don't feel as though we're engaging with a community. But maybe our idea of community is ending, as it has been ending for decades, and that a new vision of community is already beginning. Peter, will you share a reading with us? Thank you.
Gary James wrote, "When I stop to reflect on the meaning of endings, the many years that are gathered within my past emerge from the horizon as a great cloud of memory. The blue sky becomes a mottled cloud of greys in dark and light, A nostalgia for lost possibilities envelops me, and with melancholy I recall the painful goodbyes of so many I have known and loved. Like a tree in autumn, I remember the poignant separation of many leaves, each different, containing a beauty that I shared and helped to create. But the winds of life have always pushed and pulled the leaves from my body of limbs, that in harsh storms with driving winds, even strong branches have been torn from my trunk. Life is always and inevitably an unending sequence of endings. In these wistful broodings, I am drawn down among my strong roots. Here, I am compelled to find a deeper joy that embraces the dark earth. In this darkness and long silence, I am restored. Drawing the memories into my heart, I can again make a leap into the unknown. Life's harsh seasons make me strong. Letting go of the past parts the dark clouds. The warm rays of the sun bring the green growth out of the darkness of the earth, and life's unending new birth invites me to love again.
Thank you, Peter. Let's sing our next hymn, 193, We Laugh, We Cry. Which book? Purple Book, I beg your pardon.
Our lives are full of wonder. An ending that is only a beginning, forever renewing. A moon child wanders into a dark wood, into hidden, blackened parts, finding moonstones and moonflowers, offers them. Then, gifts long unclaimed. A Jesus wanders into a desert, into dry and barren parts, finding through the burning the path of purification, finding the water in the heart of the prickled cactus, offers them then gifts long unclaimed, a solitary figure. You, me, wanders into a cave of suffering, knows the brokenness, the crucifying, the dying, the entombing, finds through it all an inner self, rising dusty, shaken, transformed, and offers a gift long unclaimed. The Holy Heart, the heart of wholeness behind all the faces, and in the stars, in the darkness, nod.
In our very first meeting together on Friday evening, the Earth Spirit Network offered us a beautiful ritual, not only in gathering us into a circle that felt protected from the outside, but also in allowing us to remember and share our ancestors and those we have loved now no longer in life. It was a beautiful ritual that allowed us to share the past, the endings, but through our very presence, demonstrating the beginnings we created in order to be in that circle. The pain of grief and loss made bearable by the memories of laughter and love, that silken twine that William Blake refers to in Auguries of Innocence. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine. In the talk I gave on behalf of the Peace Fellowship yesterday evening, I talked about the things that we take for granted that have come out of that terrible havoc that came to an end almost 100 years ago. I had first planned to make that talk quite serious and deep, but then realised that it was the end of the day and we perhaps needed a lighter side if I could find one. I hadn't realised there really was one until I researched the topic, but I hope you will all remember next time you reach for a tissue just how it came to be. At some point in my search for the information that went into that talk, I realised not for the first time in my life that out of great sadness, out of great wrong, out of great darkness can come light, bright light, beautiful light, light that brings laughter and gladness, light that takes the weight of grief from our hearts. It doesn't make our grief disappear, but it shows us a new way of being, a new beginning. 32 years ago, my brother Philip died in a car accident, and it was a tragedy of such proportions to me, to my family, that for a long time it seemed none of us would walk in the light ever again. Yet if it hadn't been for that terrible and sudden loss, I doubt very sincerely that I would be standing here today. I would not have needed to find a way of beginning again. And through that journey towards a new beginning, have discovered my passion for exploring experiences of the divine in our human world. Endings often feel dark, and yet out of darkness comes light. Out of sorrow can come joy. Out of endings must come new beginnings. Out of war comes peace, not always quickly, not always the way we want or hope for, but ways we can build on. Our world is not yet at peace, but there are those of us working to find a place where peace may exist, to create that. And I may say that the principles and ethos of our Unitarian movement are those that can build bridges and pave the way for new beginning. And the building and the paving jobs are ours. Last night in our circle, I asked you to write the end of a sentence, or Sue did. Peace means ... Matty is going to read those which I came up with for the talk. I was on a roll, having done all my searching and researching. And when she's finished, let there be a silence into which your words, peace means, will come. You don't need to come to the lectern. You don't even need to stand up if you don't want to. But share what you wrote. And later I will collect them, and they will go probably into the article I will write for the Unitarian and or the Inquirer. So Matty, please share meditations on peace.
Peace means not war. Peace means we will have learned not to fight over disagreements. Peace means we will have learned to find better ways to treat each other. Peace means humanity will have finally grown up. Peace means kindness without limit. Peace means there will be enough ploughshares to go round. Peace means equity between all people. Peace means trust and respect. Peace means heroes without guns. Peace means we will have given up corruption. Peace means we will have embraced honesty. Peace means no more poppy petals needed. No more heroes to be mourned. No more widows and orphans. Peace means no more poppy petals needed.
Peace means letting live in warmth in front of the hearth of home.
Peace means choosing truth and reconciliation over revenge and escalation.
Peace means the end of greed.
Peace means absolute respect for all people.
Peace means understanding and accepting each other's differences.
Peace means every voice is heard, every face is recognised, every mouth is fed, every body is clothed, and every colour is a part of the rainbow.
Peace means ordinary people getting on with their daily lives in freedom.
Peace means the end of futility of war.
May respect crowd out the weed of violence, and community spring from the ashes of isolation. May the stories of our grandmothers and grandfathers once again nourish the growing souls of our children. May we see the divine in one another and in nature, that the earth may be healed and all her children have an abundance of food, freedom, and loving kindness, as we give willingly with heartfelt joy to one another. May the music of shared laughter replace cries of suffering, as the great tree of peace takes root in every heart. May we offer a renewed and resurrected world to the Creator with infinite gratitude and thanksgiving. Because I'm going to ask us now to sing from the Green Hymn Book, number 226. This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. And I noticed that Lloyd Stone, who wrote this, was born the year before the Great War broke out, and perhaps wrote this as a reflective in its passing. 226. This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. Thank you, Richard. May we find each other in the silence between the words. May we heal the loneliness of our expertise with the wisdom of our service. May we honor in ourselves and all others the deep and simple impulse to live, to find sacred space and open land. May we remember that the yearning to be holy is part of everyone and the only hope for our future. Amen. I am not letting you go for lunch mournful. So we are going to sing not a short and quiet verse, but a long and rowdy hymn we are going to sing from the Purple Hymn Book, 198, and if there was a futuristic hymn, this is it. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Let's stand if we're able and sing with as much gusto as we can. And let's mean it, friends. We'll build a land.
So